This show is brought to you by Whatever You Say Productions, starting conversations since 2018.
Da 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 da.
Start spreading the news.
Girl, you were even on key. Look at you go. My goodness. All right. I have some competition. I'm not the only person at WISB that can sing. Hello, everyone. Welcome and welcome back to this week's show of At The Newsstand. You may know me, you may not know me. My name's Samantha. I'm the lead host of the show. I'm the CEO of Whatever You Say Productions. This is our flagship show. We used to be called Dixon Politics, but now we're at the Newsstand because we talk about everything happening at the Newsstand. Now, typically on this show, I've got a few different people with me, but I've got someone new. So let's see. Aurora, who's over in the UK, is on vacation. Paige is helping her father, and Adriana is visiting with her family. So please join me in welcoming my very good friend and one of the hosts of our sister show, Game Over, Sarah! Yay! Hello, Sarah, my dear. How are you?
I am fantastic. How are you?
I'm good. It's been a difficult week, I think, especially if you are a woman. I think it's been a little bit troubling, but I am all right. I am officially moved out of New York City. I am officially through with my relationship. We are still friends. We part as friends, of course, but I'm back on the farm, back out in the country, staying with my folks, and it's interesting, but it's really good to be home. And I'm very, very lucky to be able to come home and kind of gather myself and focus on this company. So yes, all good things. So here's what we're going to talk about on this episode. Sarah and I are going to kick things off with our political segment called What's Burning, where we talk about all the things that are happening, current events, politics, all that good stuff. And then we're going to finish things off. Abby is back with Mike Kitlas for It's Bro Time. I think they're going to be talking a little bit about NASCAR. I think that they might touch a bit on whatever the heck is going on with James Hinchcliffe. Who, Sarah, do you know who he is? Do you know who James Hinchcliffe is?
I don't.
Ooh. Well, he's a NASCAR driver. He's a really all-around nice guy, and I know this because he was on Dancing with the Stars, which is all I care about. So, all right, let's kick things off. Sarah, let's get into it. What's burning? All right, so Sarah, the other host of this show and I have sort of been dancing around this topic for the past couple of weeks, but we can't avoid it anymore. There have been a lot of anti-abortion laws that have gone through, and I want to talk to you about it. So here's where we're at right now. The states that have passed pretty similar laws to one another are Alabama, Arkansas, Georgia, Kentucky, Mississippi, Ohio, Missouri, and Utah. Now, the argument here is that and it's the Christian rights that are really driving this overturn of Roe versus Wade. And what they're saying is that these babies, these fetuses, zygotes, whatever you would like to call them, I think that people like to use a variety of different words, but we'll say these. What do we? Let's talk about that. What do we want to call them? Because it's a bundle of cells. It's not.
Exactly. It's a
Mm.
clump of cells.
So okay, fine, but we won't get too deep into it. But what they're saying is that they have a right to life. They have a right to a life, and we will be sharing our opinions. For those of you who are the real ones who listen to our show every single week, we really couldn't part with dicks and politics fully. We admit it. We're bad at it. We're bad at breakups. So we have a new show called Dicks and Politics After Hours. And we're excited about it because it's open to anyone at Whatever You Say Productions. So that means any host, as well as any member of the executive team, they can come on in any combination they want, as often as they want, totally unscripted, unedited, and unfiltered. And I think that we might save this conversation for that show to really express our opinions. At the Newsstand really wants to be more about giving you the facts. So here are the facts. A lot of people are arguing about, whether or not it's a viable life form, this, that, and the other. But here's the thing. A fetus has a heartbeat right around 5 to 6 weeks. And it's around then that scientists have also been able to identify the very first signs of uh, what do we call it? Neuro behavior, brain activity, neuro
Yeah.
behavior. I'm trying to be a doctor. I'm not
Neural
a doctor.
development.
Neural.
Neural.
We need microscope, Mike.
Yeah.
We need
Microscope,
help.
Mike.
Mike, help us. so that's that. So take that for what you want. And babies also can, I believe they can start to hear sounds, like they start to recognize their mom's voice, I think around like 20 something weeks. So, I think that I can absolutely see why a lot of people are very troubled by what's happening. I can also understand why people are scared. I can also understand why people are confused as to why the government is now reaching into the decisions that women decide to make for their bodies. I can see a lot of sides to this, and it will be a bit interesting to see how all of this unfolds. To bring a little bit of pop culture into this, Sarah, have you seen The Handmaid's Tale on Hulu?
Yes. Yes, I have.
Great show. Fantastic show.
Absolutely.
How close do you think we are to that?
I think we're scary close. I don't know about the religious overtones so much.
Mm-hmm.
That could be a last minute bomb drop to save face,
Mm-hmm.
but we're pretty scary close to everything else, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. For those of you who don't know The Handmaid's Tale, it was a book, and Hulu made it into this unbelievable series. And if you haven't seen it yet, you absolutely should. It is a bit exhausting. So you need to go into it knowing that you can probably only watch maybe 1 to 3 episodes at a time. And then you're going to have to move on and watch something else. Very few friends of mine have been able to binge watch that. And I'm an expert binge watcher, and even I can't. I can't do that. For me, I think there's so much about that dystopian society that bothers me. It basically is women Sarah, why don't you explain what Handmaid's Tale is about?
It's basically the government has decided that since birth rates are so low, that women need to give birth. And there is something causing women to be infertile. So there are incredibly low birth rates, and they tie it into religion in a, just a ridiculous loose thread kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
And by they, I mean the government in this
Mm-hmm.
dystopian fiction.
Mm-hmm. And so there's some sort of a ranking system, right? Like certain women that are married to certain men or that come from certain economic backgrounds are sort of at the top of the food chain. And if for whatever reason they cannot bear children on their own, they have a handmaid. And the husband essentially rapes the handmaid that belongs to his household, as the wife sits there and bears witness to it and aids him, and it's all in the name of having children. And I think that that's really, really scary. So that's what's happening, and those are the states that have passed laws, and I think that there's some other states that are preparing to follow suit pretty soon. I want to give a shout out to Tommy Lahren, who I actually, and I know that you're going to roll your eyes. Sarah and I, for those of you who don't know, Sarah is a registered Democrat. She's very, very liberal. I am a registered Republican. And I am also liberal, but we're the best of friends. We get along just fine. And I know, Sarah, that Tommy Lahren is not your favorite person in the world. I don't think that you're her biggest fan, but I think something that you and I can both appreciate about her is that she stands for what she believes. And while she's happy to hear other sides of the story or experience different things and get a new point of view, she just stands in what she believes in. And what's so funny is everyone's like, she's so angry. All she does is yell and scream all the time. But she's not angry. She's just stating what she believes in. And any woman that speaks assertively apparently is angry. I get that all the time. Maybe that's why I like her so much. But it was funny because this week she sent out a tweet, and I want to give her a shout out because I retweeted it, and I also posted it on my Instagram, and she found the post and she liked it. She said, I will be attacked by fellow conservatives for saying this, but so be it. This Alabama abortion ban is too restrictive. It doesn't save a life. It simply forces women into more dangerous methods, other states or countries. You don't encourage life via blanket government mandate. There you go. And I agree. How do you feel about that statement?
I absolutely agree. I never thought the day would come, but she says it well.
Well, it's here. So this was definitely a top story of this week. But Sarah, what else is happening in the world of news? I understand that there's something going on with some of the refugees. Is that correct?
Yes, they are starting to be flown out of Texas um, it, to other probably sanctuary cities, I'm guessing. But yes, they are being
Okay.
flown out.
Well, that's great. But do we know anything about where they're going exactly? And I think what I'm getting at is, will they be living in much better and kinder conditions than what they have been living in? Or do we
I
not know?
I don't think we know. I'm hoping it will be much better than the cages that they've been keeping children in. But it seems they will be released into communities and will wait in the communities for their immigration hearings.
Okay.
So where they'll live while they wait, I don't know.
I think I want to dig into this a little bit with you. And I don't want to go too deep into it. We'll save it for Dixon Politics After Hours. But I think that at the end of the day, every human deserves the right to be treated just like that, like a human, someone with equal opportunities and clean drinking water and fresh air to breathe and a place to rest their head and make the most of their life, make the most of their existence. And I do think that we've gotten very sensitive as a society. And I think in a lot of ways that's great. I think it's very forward moving. I think it's admirable and I'm excited about it. But in other ways, I also think that there needs to be processes in place. If things are going to be done, especially if they're going to be done at scale and it's going to affect us as a society, I think that there does need to be a process. Do you think when these refugees are coming into our country, and this is something that President Trump has been focused on since before he even moved into the White House, was making sure that everything had a process for coming into this country and doing so legally and going about it the right way. I hate to say it like that, the right way, but going about it in the best way for the United States of America. Do you
Yeah.
think um, do you think that the Trump administration does care about humans, especially immigrants and refugees?
Um, to be harsh, no. Not with the way they're acting.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
I don't think they see them as equal human beings.
I did hear something yesterday, and I think I was listening to NPR. Someone had said that I think it was President Trump who said that he wanted people in this company, especially people of merit. And there was someone that was arguing against him that felt that was a really, really inappropriate and very elitist term to use. Of course, I think every country wants the best and the brightest, but I also think that with the best and the brightest, that doesn't always mean that they're the nicest people or the most hardworking or the ones that are going to give back to society. Or I don't know. I really struggle with this, right? Like, I struggle with being a female minority Republican in 2019 because once upon a time, the Republican Party and the Republican ideals that was America.
Yeah.
And I still think that the Republican ideals are still for America. I guess what I'm trying to get at with you is, as my liberal friend, and I have many liberal friends, but I think you're probably one of the most liberal out of them all. Um,
It's
do you
probably fairly
feel,
accurate.
and we can still break bread and have a chuckle, and we're fine. I
Exactly.
mean, it's important to us, I think, not only at WISP, but also at the newsstand, to really demonstrate that, like, everyone at WISP, we really run the spectrum in terms of where we all sit with politics and religion and social issues and things of that nature. But we're all the best of friends, and we can all talk about these things and not yell and scream and hate each other. But what I also really appreciate about all the people at our company is that we won't avoid certain topics to avoid them. You know what I mean? Like, we won't say, oh, that is my friend that I cannot talk about abortion with. We can
Yeah.
all talk about everything. And I think that that's really cool. Bunch of young people, man, I tell you, we're the next best thing.
Yeah.
And thank goodness we're going to be the next generation in charge. But Sarah, I want to ask you, do you think that your party has relied a little bit too much on fear tactics and sort of a smoke and mirrors type of a thing, um, to get people to fear the Republican Party and conservatives?
That's a very good question. Um, and I think it definitely has. Um, but almost no more so than the other parties have done to
Mm-hmm.
Democrats in the past as well. All the
Yeah.
fear mongering about Obama, the birthers. It's a kind of a back and forth thing that is a byproduct of having a two-party system.
Yeah. And, I said this in a previous episode, and I'll say it again. This whole fear mongering and this scaring the absolute shit out of society is a very American practice. The rest of the world really doesn't operate this way. I mean, Korea, I guess we could talk about North and South Korea for a second. That's a
Yeah.
little scary. And Russia, I think, might be a little scary too. But I mean, you look at what's happening over in the UK, and I know that Aurora will appreciate that shout out. Like, yeah, they might have a really messed up political system right now, and everything is a mess, and we're all sort of biting our nails, waiting for Halloween to roll around. But with Brexit, because that's the date. But yeah, that fear tactic, it is a very American practice. And I think that it can be a really irresponsible and dangerous one, but I also do think that it's effective. I think that both parties are equally guilty of digging up dirt about the other side. So let's talk a little bit about Mayor de Blasio, who, as someone who lived in New York City, like, he's done nothing for our city. Our city, honestly, and you live in Jersey, so you're not far. Like, you
Yeah.
walk down any New York City street, there's garbage everywhere. It smells like pee. There's homeless people all over the place. You go down into the subway, and everything is just vandalized, and it's disgusting. Like, he put his name into the hat this week to be president.
Yep.
He is the 20, what is he, like the 23rd person
I
to
think I
put
read
their name
24th.
forward. Okay, so to put their name forward for a Democratic candidacy for president. Now, look, and I hate to say it, like, it is solely your responsibility. Sarah, the whole fate of the nation rests on your shoulders. Congratulations. Sarah's like, I just signed up to be on a podcast about video games. Help me. But here's the truth of the matter. The Democratic Party, the liberals, we'll call you guys the liberals, you guys do not have a candidate, I don't feel, yet, that is strong enough to take on Trump and or to take him down. Do you agree or disagree?
I don't want to agree because I'm a strong Bernie supporter,
I
but
love Bernie. What a guy. He's great.
I think I do have to agree. I think our party's split up far too much now, and the conspiracy theorist in me is wondering if half of these candidates are just moles by the Republican Party.
Great.
to break up the Democrats so that we don't have a solid vote in
Hmm.
2020 and Trump stays in office.
Yeah. I think what I am interested to see is I'm interested to see what happens with Joe Biden. Now, we've talked a little bit about, and talked about it on Slam It with Sam, and I think I also wrote about it in Oh My God newspaper. But Joe Biden has officially put forth his bid for presidency. He had his first presidential kickoff event, I think it was a couple of weeks ago down in Pittsburgh. And I am very interested to see him debate Donald Trump. And some people are saying, oh, like Biden, too little, too late. He's too old. There's just no way. But I'm interested in hearing what he has to say because this is a man who spent 8 years in the White House. This is a man who has built those connections, who knows how it works, who knows, a very large fraction of what it takes to run this country. Of course, he's got to mold it and make it his own, but that is one debate that I'm very much looking forward to. Not because I want to see Trump walk all over him or because I want to see the Democrats come out on top. I just want to hear what they have to say about the issues and how they debate in that kind of a format. I think that will be very, very exciting. So, Sarah, I want to thank you so much for joining us. Why don't you plug very quickly? Why don't you plug your own podcast for a second for those who may not know what it is?
Absolutely. You guys should definitely check out Game Over. It's our podcast all about video games, esports. We talk about Game of Thrones, everything. Just
Video games
talk.
that then become movies or TV
Yes.
shows. I have to tell you, like the whole thing was sort of like mine and Ian's idea together. And I was telling you when you guys were recording earlier, I'm learning things. I am like learning things and retaining information. And Adriana said something to me the other day about Borderlands 3. And like I knew all about it and I could answer her question. And she's like, whoa, 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 wait. How do you know that? I'm like, girl, I've been listening to Game Over. Listen. So no, it's great. And you're doing a fantastic job. So all right, guys, stay tuned, stick with us. We're gonna get right into it. Our final segment of the day. It's bro time.
Coming off a wild weekend in the wide world of sports. War of Will wins. Brooks beats Bethpage. Drivers drop Dukes. And Steph's still splendid. Alliterations aside, Abby, how was the weekend?
It was good. I have to admit, I've been doing a lot of catch up on all things sports. I was out of town for work, but the weekend was good. How was yours?
Not too bad. Got to take in some great things. Got to watch Brooks do some rare feats over at Bethpage. Make the black course look like it was really for rookies out there. So it was a lot of fun. But I think we should start it off with a little bit about what you were telling me earlier with the All-Star race this past weekend.
Yes, who knew NASCAR could, throw down and
Right? Not
yeah.
since Tony Stewart decided to run a man over have I been this excited to talk about cars.
Yeah, so I was checking it out, and apparently what happened was Clint Boyer came down across the top, bumped Ryan Newman's nose, and then kind of all hell broke loose. Reached into the car. Boyer reached into the car and started throwing punches at Ryan Newman. Apparently, they had some altercations, some light bumps throughout the race. One of them thought the other one was a lap down.
Wow.
But other than that, not quite sure what happened. Just watching the video, he just kind of clips the nose and goes spinning. But the All-Star race was won by Kyle Larson.
Wow. And Larson off to a great start already this year. But just to back up a little bit, because Clint's been around for quite a while. I remember when he was driving the Jack Daniels car back in the day, not for any other reason except I drank a lot of Jack Daniels. But has there been bad blood between Clint and anyone or between Clint and Ryan before?
Not that I'm aware of, and I wish my boyfriend was home to ask him because he knows all of these things. But I think it was just a heat of the moment. There had been a few bumps apparently throughout the race, a little clip here, a little touch there. And And I think they had just had enough by the end of the race, because this was during the cool down lap. This was not even during the actual race. The race
Oh,
was
wow.
over. They had already placed 12th and 13th and just, I guess, had enough. But Helmut Zahn reaches inside the car and is throwing punches. It was very interesting.
Like trying to fight an oyster, just not a good idea. You gotta let it get the helmet off and get the shell off. Now, what was Newman's reaction afterwards? How did they end up breaking things down?
So I watched a quick video, and it just seemed like they were gonna talk it out. And I think the exact words were gonna have a Coke and talk about it. So it didn't seem like after they got done, got out of their suits, got back to the trailers, the whole thing, that there was a lot of bad blood. I mean, we'll see what happens in the next race. You never know. There could be a little retaliation and payback mid-race, but we will see. But it didn't seem like at the end that they were particularly upset still with each other, which was interesting. So it kind of lends to a heat of the moment, just aggravation at the end of the race.
Well, it was a weekend full of fights as we come back to the East Coast, the Beast Coast, and head to Brooklyn, where Deontay Wilder added his 20th first-round knockout. The man now sits at 41-0, 40 of those wins by knockout. And Abby, as we were kind of talking about earlier, this was another one where the feud just boiled over. And Dominic Breazeale had some words for Wilder leading up to this fight. Didn't even want to do the customary touch of gloves and was soon knocked out and staring up at the lights. It's never a good thing when you go down in the first. But did you have a chance to see how crazy that knockout was?
I have not actually. I need to check it out. But first round knockout, that's something.
Oh, yeah.
How often does that happen?
In the days of Mike Tyson, where everyone would purchase the pay-per-view, pay all the money, and then be mad when he did what Mike Tyson does and absolutely destroys the man in the first 2 rounds, it's not as rare nowadays. But with Deontay, again, 20 of those first-round knockouts, he's the last of a dying breed with the heavy hands. It's fun to watch, and he connected, and it was by far one of the most brutal knockouts I think I've ever seen. That the man's earlobes, poor Dominic Breazeale, his earlobes were flailing after the connection. It was just automatic reset button. So in a weekend of fights, that was the much more fun one for me. That I'm screaming, jumping around my living room at 11:30 at night on a Saturday.
Yeah, I imagine.
Well, we got to see some great things with Steph and the Warriors this past weekend too. Doesn't look too good for younger brother Steph, does it?
No, I want the Blazers so badly. I want them to come through, but Steph has had some really great games, and I was reading some stats. So since Durant went down in the second half of Game 5 against the Rockets, he's had 207 points in 213 minutes. And so I have a question for you, since you are much more of a basketball aficionado than I am. If Durant comes back, does that hurt Steph's playing in the rest of the championship? Is that going to affect his shooting and his scoring and the effect that he is having on the game?
It's so fun to have that be asked, because in all honesty, the conversation is going to turn to, is this team better without KD? And I don't think that that's the case. I mean, he's one of the most prolific shooters and one of the best mid-range shooters in the game today. That no matter what, it's another tool in your tool belt. Right now, they're playing Splash Brothers ball, where you're shooting it from the outside, you're letting Steph run the point. This has always been Steph's team, but with Durant, it's a different dynamic. That it's much easier to spread the floor using him. It's much easier to get the other team on their heels, but the thing that I've enjoyed, and again, as we pointed out last episode, I am an Enes Kanter truther. I love him to death. But it is just so different without Durant, and watching this team play defense too. What they can do offensively with the 3 ball has been fantastic. But just watching them tear teams apart defensively too, it gets it so fun that you can't help but be a little jealous. You can't help but get a little angry and say, this team deserves every one of those championship appearances that they've had over these last 5 years.
It's been quite the few games, and I'm, like I said, I still want the Blazers to come back. I don't want it to be 4-out. I want them to, fight and give the Warriors a run for their money. But unless Lillard can do something, I think it's going to be over tonight, right? Tonight's game 4.
Yep. Monday night, game 4. I'm hoping for a gentleman's sweep, so at least Portland can get one under their belt and go down 4-1 in the best of 7 series. And I mean, we look at the East right now, and Giannis earlier today said he never expected this series to be easy, and man, he is not wrong right there. That's been the more fun one to watch, minus the blowout in game 2, nice 22-point lead, or win rather, but I think that's going to be the series where these teams are going to bang themselves out. It's going to be Toronto and it's going to be Milwaukee just beating each other down. And it's going to help the Warriors coast once this team gets there.
Mm-hmm. So you're thinking Warriors all the way?
How can you not?
I don't know.
You have the possibility. You have the possibility of adding another weapon as soon as they come back. That no matter how you want to build the house, now you're getting another power tool to help you cut the foundation a lot harder. Like it just, I just can't see any scenario where it's not the Warriors coming out of this.
So you think Durant's coming back?
You had to put me on the spot right there. Somebody had said originally that they thought it was an Achilles injury, not a calf injury. After looking at it, you don't want to rush things like this, and maybe the thought process is, hey, we can get past Portland, we can get to the NBA championship. Why not bring back the Spider when you can win an NBA championship out of that? You save him for the championship, you bring him in, and it's like bringing in the closer in the 9th inning. As a Yankee fan, you knew when Enter Sandman used to be played over the loudspeaker, that meant the greatest closer of all time, Mariano Rivera, was running into from the bullpen to the pitcher's mound. I just don't see how there's going to be any way that you don't bring him in to do something like that. You have the perfect scenario. This is what coaches dream of.
Right. Yeah. So who do you think, Bucks or Raptors?
I am going to go with Giannis. I've been saying it since the beginning. This guy has the potential to be the face of the NBA, at least the face of the East. I just don't think that Kawhi alone, no offense to Kyle Lowry, but Kyle already had a great game in game 1, and it was wasted. You've seen other guys in the series, much like you were talking about in last episode. You've seen other guys in the series step up. Lopez, I don't think anybody expected Brook Lopez to do or to play as well as he has these first couple games. Certainly, the Brooklyn Nets didn't expect him to have anything left in the tank at this point, right?
Right, exactly.
So that's what I'm sticking with. Is I'm gonna go with the Bucks taking it, and I'm gonna say 6 games. We'll get the 6. It'll be a rough fought 6 games, but it'll be the Bucks and it'll be the Golden State Warriors playing it out for the NBA championship this year. What about you? What are you thinking?
Well, I've been wrong on so many other things. I feel like I have to go with your vote here.
I mean, you're riding high with the Bruins going into the Stanley Cup final, so
I did get that right. But yeah, I would have to agree. I think it's gonna be Bucks Warriors, but I want Blazers to get a win, maybe 2.
If it happens, and this is the first 3-0 comeback that we have going into the NBA championship, I just don't think that it happens this late in the conference finals. The Warriors did blow a 3-0 lead before. It's not. I can't see it happening, especially when you have a guy like Durant that can come in and change the tempo of the game at any waking moment, depending how he's feeling.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're shutting everything down that the Blazers are trying to do, so they're gonna have to come up with something different. And who knows? Maybe tonight's the night, and we'll have to go to a game 5 at least.
Maybe tonight's the night. Well, this weekend certainly was the weekend for Brooks Koepka as he went on to win his 2nd PGA championship in a row. Last year, doing great things over at Shinnecock in Long Island. This year, turning one of the hardest courses, Bethpage Black, into his baby and just absolutely dominating from start to finish. Wire to wire, he was in the lead from day 1. Did you have any chance to catch any of the PGA Championship?
I watched it a little bit online, just checking some things. Didn't actually watch it live or anything like that, but I did. He did have a little hiccup, I guess you would like to say. He
Yep.
kind of blew that lead. He was up? He had a 7-shot lead and only won with 2 strokes.
Yeah,
So
Dustin Johnson started pressing a little bit, and I think Brooks might have took the foot off the gas, so to speak, for a while. But 30 years old to win his 4th major, and back-to-back PGA championships. That's not a bad start to a solid career, huh?
no, definitely not.
But no, to your point, DJ started coming on strong, and even day 2, Thursday, that group of him, Molinari, and Tiger Woods, for me, that was fun to watch, especially him and Tiger, just because you have a young kid, Brooks, who's 29 years old, turning 30 next year, just recently turned 29, that he could be the new face of golf, and Tiger, of course, the face for so many years, and that fun run that was the Masters. But Brooks could easily start pacing and taking things over, and I think that's what golf's dying for, is a new face and a new leader like that.
I think it's great. You got to shake it up every once in a while. And what happened with Tiger Woods?
And it was
not his best, huh?
No, not his best at all. It was a rough one for El Tigre this past weekend, and I mean, I was hopeful. He was neck and neck on Thursday. He was right there at even, kept flirting, getting under par, and just couldn't do it on the greens. The greens were messing with him a little bit. So my guy, he's gonna have to retool and come back a little bit harder next tourney. So
when is the next tournament? When are we looking?
So the next major coming up is tournaments. They're gonna run tournaments. They're gonna run tournaments every weekend. But the majors are your ones that carry the highest purses. Brooks winning $11 million, as we touched on last weekend. The purse on this one that was just out of this world to look at some of the different payments that these guys end up winning, the different purses that these guys end up winning. This weekend coming up, they head over to the Charles Schwab Challenge over in Houston, Texas. It's either Houston or Dallas, and I know that's that's a terrible thing to do. It's Dallas, Texas, Fort Worth, but Dallas. That's a terrible thing to say to a Texan, but as far as the majors go, you're looking at a bit of a layoff until we start getting towards the heart of the summer. So that's the next one that I'm looking at as we start to get to Pebble Beach coming up in the middle of June with the U.S. Open. That's the one that we're really going to be looking at next. And Bubba Watson, your host, and you're looking at just a cool $1.2 million for that one if you walk away with a win. So you want to start practicing a little bit? We'll get out there and maybe go try to win 1.2 mil.
Oh, that would be amazing. You'd think I'd be good at it, being a field hockey player forever. But I have tried a little golf. I have a video. It's hilarious. It is not the prettiest thing you've ever seen. But hey, for 1.2 million, I'd figure it out.
Yeah, you always seem to find a way, right?
Mm-hmm. Let alone 11 million. I'm in.
Yeah, right. I'll tell you though, that's something that I'll stick to Top Golf, and you're welcome to come with me. We'll get. Some
I've done
beers,
that. That's where my video is Top Golf in Dallas.
Right. So see, and all those people who are listening in the Dallas-Fort Worth region that heard me call it Houston earlier, they hate me and they love you for going.
Well, there we go.
Well, and last but not least, of course, Country Home not running in the Preakness this past Saturday, but War of Will able to garner a win. Are we even looking forward to the final leg of the Triple Crown coming up here in Long Island in a few weeks, or are we just out on horse racing for the rest of the year?
I mean, I think they're all interesting to watch. I have seen quite a few races in Saratoga, which was really enjoyable, but there's no potential for a Triple Crown winner.
And while this one is still, again, we're looking at just a cool $1.5 million for the winning horse. I mean, it's still bragging rights. It's still money, but you're right. It loses some luster, and we're spoiled after seeing 2 in the last 4 years, and after that long drought. It loses the luster a little bit.
It does, but I have to say, Boat Express, bucked its jockey, just kept going. Ran the whole race.
That was fantastic.
He
What
didn't
a
even
video,
come in
huh?
last. He ran the
Didn't even
whole-
come in last. What does that say to the jockey and the horse that came in last, though?
Oh man, I think there was at least 2 behind him. Like, I don't think he was in his lane, as we learned, which is super important. And I did not realize War of Will is the horse that Maximum Security cut off in the Derby.
Yep.
So I think that's kind of poetic.
Oh,
that,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's the horse that deserved it, right? That was
Right.
the horse that was supposed to win. That's how it was supposed to go. So
Mhm.
we could be looking at a Triple Crown, but man, if only Maximum Security had just stayed in its lane.
Yep. And
That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Yep, I guess that's kind of a theme, if Boyer had stayed in his lane. And...
Yep. See, there you go. Just stay in your lane, no matter what. If you've learned nothing else from this podcast today, stay in your lane.
There we go.
Well, we head forward. We wrap up going into Memorial Day weekend. Hope everyone enjoys it. Hope you get to grill something delicious, be it your Impossible Burger, your regular burger, your Beyond Meat burger. Just pick a burger and toss it on your grill. Watch some sports. This is a great weekend for baseball, and hope everyone comes back and enjoys next week right here at the Newsstand.
Thank you for listening to At The Newsstand, presented by Whatever You Say Productions in affiliation with Slam It With Sam and Oh My God Newspaper. To learn about these and more, join us at whateveryousayproductions.com.